Nanu. So, Kaiva Go responded to my last video, said, great video, and it's great you're taking ideas for what to do more in the future. I came across a list of Wikipedia topics on psychological manipulation techniques, experiments, and thought it'd be useful for a former Scientologist to go through them one by one, perhaps in a series of short videos, to give their experience on either subject to or unknowingly engaging in each technique or not while in Scientology. That's actually a really awesome question. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 links. So, start with the first one, Asch conformity experiments. In psychology, the Asch conformity experiments for the Asch paradigm refers to a series of studies directed by Solomon Asch, studying, and that's A-S-C-H, if you're wondering. It's in the comments. Studying if and how individuals yielded to or defied a majority group and the effect of such influences on beliefs and opinions. Developed in the 1950s, the methodology remains in use by many researchers to the present day. Applications include the study of conformity, effects of task importance, age, gender, and culture. So, I'm just going to take the the Asch paradigm here, studying if and how individuals yielded to or defied a majority group and the effect of such influences and beliefs and opinions. So when you go against the grain in Scientology, say at a executive meeting or in the ED's office, the executive director's office, or on post with your senior, or even out in the field with juniors of yours, this applies because, hold on a second, okay, because the group, the majority group, what they believe, right, studying the effects of influences on beliefs and opinions. So you're indoctrinated into this yourself. You do it yourself. It's a do-it-yourself religion, cult, whatever. But there is still a sense of self somewhere down there. It's there. It's there every time something happens and you're like, this ain't right. Although some people tend to be able to quieten that more than others. I think that's part of why I didn't last but 2.5 years on staff. I wasn't born into it. Maybe, there are several generations of Scientologists now, so I could see how it would be easier for them to quieten the inner voice and just kind of go with whatever the group is saying. So, the Asch paradigm, would be something like whenever I was body routing people, and I yielded to I didn't want a body route. I thought it was completely grotesque, an idea of going out and calling it that, and crudely calling it routing bodies to the mission, like people are just sacks of meat, and that's literally how they were talking about people, like they're just meat ready to be processed, and you just route them there like cattle, however you can, using your wiles, charms, social abilities, communication skills are a huge thing in Scientology. The most successful of Scientologists within organizations and missions are the ones that can communicate the best. But the inverse is also true. It all depends on the degree to which you yield or defy the majority group. So when someone, say, that is very successful defies the group, so for instance, Jim Hamry, who was a very high earner at the Ventura mission, he could bring in several, sometimes 100, on average he would bring in $20,000 to $30,000 a week to the church. He didn't see any of it, really. We all lived in, 8 people lived in a house, but some weeks he'd make $130,000, $150,000, even all the way up to $200,000 a week, in a week. And when he was making that kind of money, the way it works is the more upstat you are, and the more, the more the more, quote, in ethics you are, like, all this goes together. Like, if you're on purpose and you're upstat and you are an opinion leader in that group, so you can make absurd requests of other members of the group, and the other members of the group that aren't you, or the other members. Say, for instance, Jim is mad at me for X. Well, he can tell me to scrub the floor with mineral oil for 2 weeks, and no one's going to question it, and I can go along with it, yield to it, or I can defy it. And, the Asch paradigm is actually really, really interesting. I'm glad that Kaiva Go linked this, because it's a study about conformity, and as it says further down, that it still is used today, hopefully in more productive ways. All this leads up to the Milton or the Milgram experiments and the Stanford University experiments, which we've been covering in Psych 101, but it's worth going over in my videos, I would imagine. I mean, so I'll do that. I'm going to do some more reading and figure out what kind of examples I can give with that. As far as with the Asch conformity, in the case of Jim being upstat, he could essentially override. That's one of the effects or influences on everyone else's beliefs and opinions, because they, if Jim is upstat, then Jim is on purpose, then Jim is looking out for the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So if Jim says something, it's like he's a sage, and so they're like, well, Marcus is going to scrub the floor with mineral oil for 2 weeks. His hands are going to be fucked, but that's what our wisest sage says to do. And I mean, he just, he's contributed to clearing the planet a tremendous amount in the last blah 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 blah. That's the line, anyway. So yeah, Asch conformity experiments conducted and developed in the 1950s. Many researchers still use to the present day.